Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Drive Clean Chicago Drive Clean Truck webinar. My name is Alicia Gildy, and I work for CalStart and one of the important program partners for Drive Clean Chicago. Today's program, we're going to be talking to you about what are the incentives that are available through this important program, how we're trying to work with our various partners to promote sustainable transportation, and then give you guidance on the various steps to take in order to successfully participate. Just some real quick housekeeping. I just want to let you know that we will have Q&A at the end of the program. And if you're interested and you have a question, I'm not sure if you've participated in these webinars before where you can actually click the raise hand and just notify me and I'll unmute you. So if you receive that speaker code number, just make sure that you've entered it in appropriately, and then I'll allow you to speak and ask your question. If not, if you want to type in your question, I'll just make sure that your question is raised and we'll have it addressed during this webinar. Secondly, we've attached two helpful resources for you to review. We have the Drive Clean Truck fact sheet and the Drive Clean Truck implementation manual. That manual is basically our guidance book, if you will, on how to participate, what it means to participate as a fleet purchaser or a vendor, and various steps that you need to follow in order to participate successfully. So with that, let me introduce you to today's three great speakers that we have. Samantha Bingham with Chicago Department of Transportation. Sam is the leader behind this great program, Drive Clean Chicago. She will talk to you about the goals and objectives for the cities of Chicago and what they're doing in terms of trying to promote emission reduction through the support and incentive program and the various goals to help promote sustainable transportation. We'll then have Tom Brotherton, who is the Regional Director for CalStart. He will talk about the various technologies that are available through the program, what it means to become an approved vendor, and then lastly, we will end it with the wonderful Priscilla there again with Tetra Tech. She is our administrator for voucher processing, and she'll walk you through the important steps on what it means to submit a voucher request. All right, so with that, let's go ahead and get started. Sam, I'm going to toss it off to you.
Thanks, Alicia, and thanks everyone for carving out some time today to join us for the webinar to learn more about Drive Clean Truck and to answer your questions that you might have about the program thus far. You might be wondering why the City of Chicago is offering this incentive program for fleets throughout the Chicago region. Chicago has been a leader in adopting advanced vehicle technologies for our own fleet. As an example, we have over 150 compressed natural gas vehicles, over 600 hybrids, 2,400 flex fuel vehicles, and all of the fueling infrastructure to support that diversified, alternative, and efficient fleet. We also have the first electric refuse truck in North America. The mayor has stated that efficient vehicles should be the norm in Chicago, and that doesn't just apply to the city's own fleet, but also the other private and vehicles that are operating throughout the city and extending that throughout the region. While this is not reducing emissions and reducing petroleum use from the transportation sector are goals found in the city's sustainability policy roadmaps that are helping make the city of Chicago the most sustainable city in the world. Through Sustainable Chicago 2015 and the Chicago Department of Transportation's Chicago Forward policy initiatives, we've identified several actions to help increase fuel efficiency throughout the fleet portfolio of the city's fleet and also the private sector fleet and the vehicles driven by residents of Chicago. Specifically, there's a call for a 10% increase in the use of alternative fuel vehicles by 2020. While these are our most current sustainability initiatives and policies, this is not a new focus for the City of Chicago. For over 20 years, the city has partnered with the U.S. Department of Energy's Clean Cities program in supporting the local Chicago area Clean Cities Coalition. The local Clean Cities Coalition provides technical assistance, education, and outreach to fleets in Chicago and throughout the 6-county Chicago region to help reduce petroleum use through the implementation of alternative fuels, idling reduction, right-sizing your fleet vehicles as well as your fleet, etc., etc. Lastly, we know that the biggest barrier for fleets when transitioning to more efficient and alternative fuel technologies is the incremental cost or the conversion cost of the vehicles themselves. We've had many conversations with leadership at companies and other fleets throughout the region who understand our air quality issues in the region as well as the impacts of greenhouse gas emissions on climate change. But if taking action is going to put them at an economic disadvantage or a competitive disadvantage, they can't justify doing it. And so the city of Chicago has been bringing home the bacon for over 15 years to leverage federal funding resources in order to enable local incentive programs for fleets to go greener throughout our region. Next slide. So our most recent effort to help green fleets in the Chicago region is the Drive Clean Chicago program. Drive Clean Chicago is an incentive program for fleets and station providers throughout the 6-county Chicago area. It helps achieve the city's sustainability goals by helping fleets reduce and replace petroleum use in their fleet by helping reduce the incremental cost of the technologies. This program is funded by federal congestion mitigation and air quality funding. This funding comes to our region because we are in non-attainment for certain air quality goals that the U.S. EPA has set across the nation. So we actually are not meeting federal standards for a couple particular emissions, and by helping to address the vehicle technologies and fuels that we're using in fleets throughout the region, that actually has a measured effect on our air quality goals in the region. Next slide. So Drive Clean Chicago, you saw on our first slide that we have a variety of individuals and organizations that are working on this program. I just wanted to provide some background on who all the players are on the team that's implementing the program. The program is administered and developed by the Chicago Department of Transportation. We have a grant agreement with CalSTART, which is a national not-for-profit whose mission is in line with the goals and mission of Drive Clean Chicago. Tetra Tech, Priscilla, is working on the actual voucher processes, and she is the one that you will most interact with on a day-to-day basis if you participate in the program. And then Legacy Environmental, Carl Lissick and his team are helping provide the communications and outreach strategies to help everyone know about this program and get people to participate. So under the banner of Drive Clean Chicago, we have 3 very specific strategic funding programs to help address several opportunities in our region to help advance petroleum reduction. Drive Clean Truck, which we are talking about today, is an incentive for Class 2 through Class 8 all-electric and hybrid trucks and buses. This program launched with just over $11 million in its coffers. I'm pleased to announce that we have, I think, just about $9 million now. So I think we've received applications for 57, 59 vouchers so far, and the pace is just picking up. So We still have a lot of funding to go, but we have seen some progress so far. Drive Clean Taxi is specifically targeted for the taxi industry and the public passenger vehicles in the city of Chicago, regulated by our Business Affairs Division. These vehicles put on a tremendous amount of miles, so it's a great opportunity to work with these fleets to help them transition into more efficient vehicles. And then Drive Clean Station, which has not opened yet. We're hoping to make an announcement by the end of this year. This pot of funding is specified for public compressed natural gas stations and fast charging public stations. This pot of money has about $1.4 million in it. Well, while the other two programs are voucher programs, this will be a grant opportunity. So you will see a call for applications, and then you will be able to respond to that grant application if you are so inclined to participate. Next slide. And so here I'm going to turn it over to Tom Brotherton of CalStart, who is going to go more in depth on our Drive Clean Truck program.
Thank you, Sam. So one question people might ask is, so why are we targeting clean trucks and buses in this program? And it's because trucks and buses have both high mileage and high fuel consumption, so that if you can improve the fuel economy of a truck or bus, you can save a fair amount of money on fuel cost. Also, trucks and buses tend to have higher emissions and are louder vehicles than, say, cars or pickup trucks. So it really does make a lot of sense to target larger trucks and buses for these programs. And as Sam did mention, Chicago is a non-attainment area for air quality benefits. So anything that we can do within this 6-county region is even more important because it's a non-attainment area. Next slide, please. Okay, so brief agenda for my section of the talk. Who can participate? We'll go through what kinds of vehicles are eligible, who are the approved vendors and dealers, what is the incentive amount for each vehicle, and how does the program work? Next slide. First of all, who can receive an incentive? So it's really open to just about anybody. It's a commercial, nonprofit, or public fleet that operates at least 75% of the time within the 6-county metropolitan Chicago area. And that truck or bus has to be domiciled, meaning that it's garaged overnight within that 6-county metropolitan area. So really, the only folks we're excluding are just average old people. This is not meant for a person who wants to, as an example, buy a hybrid pickup truck for their personal use. It's got to be for commercial use by either a commercial entity, a nonprofit entity, or a public fleet. And if you are interested, the way it works is you apply through an approved vendor or dealer. And we'll get into who those folks are a little later. Next slide. So what vehicles are eligible? So the categories of eligible vehicles are electric and hybrid, trucks and buses. And this can be anywhere from Class 2 to Class 8. So that's 6001 GVWR and all the way up. It's also open to both new vehicles as well as retrofits. And you can see a complete list of eligible vehicles. If you see up here, there's a link, and in the next couple slides, I'll even give you some examples of what the website looks like so you can look up trucks. And also, just bear in mind, if there's a particular truck or bus that meets that category that you don't see on this list, talk to that manufacturer because they can get eligible in the program as well. Right now, we've got a pretty long list of eligible vehicles, but it's not every truck or bus that could be eligible under the program. So if you've got a particular manufacturer who you don't see on this list, talk to them, and they could become eligible. So this is a screenshot of the Drive Clean Chicago website, and you'll see at the top there's a pull-down menu, and we've clicked on Clean Trucks, and then you'll see highlighted the second one down on the pull-down menu is eligible vehicles. So if you click on that eligible vehicle pull-down menu, it'll bring up the list of eligible vehicles. Next slide, please. And this is what it looks like when you get to that that next page. So this is the list of eligible vehicles, and if this were a live screen, you could scroll down, and that list is a fairly long list of eligible vehicles, sorted starting with all electric vehicles, and then toward the bottom part we get into the hybrid vehicles. But it'll show you every vehicle that's in the program, and it also shows you the specific incentive amount for that particular vehicle. So you'll get a sense of the different types of vehicles as well as how much money, exactly how much money you would get in an incentive for that vehicle. It also then has a link to the website where you can learn a little bit more about that vehicle. And then in another page, you can also see who the vendors are who sell those particular vehicles. Next slide, please. So who are the approved vendors or dealers? So vendors and dealers have been approved to sell eligible vehicles or provide conversions. So for every one of the offered vehicles on the eligible vehicle list, there is one or more approved vendors who can sell either a new vehicle or provide a conversion. Next slide. In red here, I've circled where you click on that eligible vehicle page to bring up a list of the approved vendors. So from the very same page that you can look at vehicle eligibility, you just click on that little blue link there, and it'll bring up a page that shows you all of the eligible vendors. So how much money can you receive? So the structure of the incentives was set up to cover 80% of the incremental cost of a new vehicle or 80% of the cost of a conversion. So it's a really significant amount of money that's available. There are caps that are set by GVWR as well as technology to limit. There's some vehicles that have very, very high incremental cost. And as an example, there are some transit buses that have several $100,000 incremental cost. So in that heaviest GVWR category for an all-electric bus, we do limit the incentive amount to $150,000 per vehicle. But in many cases, the caps do not actually limit the voucher amount, that it will go up and cover 80% of that incremental cost. As Sam mentioned, the program was initially funded at $11.3 million of incentive funding. We've had about $2.5 million of incentive funding that's been requested so far to date. Next slide. So this slide gives you a sense of what those caps that I mentioned are. And you'll see that going down that left-hand column are the different ranges of GVWR. And then there are three different technology categories: zero emission, which covers battery and fuel cell vehicles, an extended range electric vehicle or plug-in hybrid vehicle. So this is a vehicle that has both batteries as well as an internal combustion engine, and it has a plug, so it plugs in overnight. They usually have much larger battery pack sizes than a conventional hybrid vehicle, but it does have an engine, so it's not just a zero-emission vehicle. And then that far right column are hybrid vehicles. So these are vehicles that do not plug in. And you'll see the caps for each of those GVWR ranges by these three technologies. I will mention that if you go to the website, we have what's called an implementation manual that you can download. This is the rule book. And in this rule book, there is not only a copy of this table, but all of the rules associated with participating in the program. So if you're interested in participating in the program, you really do want to just give a quick read through the implementation manual, and that shows you exactly how the program works. Next slide, please. So this is just one example of a vehicle that's in the program and one example of a fleet that's participated in the program. I want to give you a sense of just how much you could save by participating. So Coca-Cola purchased 9 XL hybrid systems from the program. And the specific numbers down at the bottom, these are GM cargo vans. The XL hybrid system is typically an $11,000 incremental cost. The Chicago incentive provided $8,800 of cost reduction. So the fleet ended up spending an extra $2,200 rather than an extra $11,000. This meant that the payback is going to occur in about 20,000 miles, which is a much smaller payback than without an incentive, or to be more like 80,000 miles. So the incentive program really allows the fleet to see a payback in a much faster time period than without the cost savings. And the way the program works is the incentive really reduces that price directly to the fleet. So the fleet simply pays $2,200 more. They don't have to wait for a check to come back to them. They just pay $2,200 more rather than $11,000 more for that initial vehicle price. Next slide, please. So in a nutshell, how does it work? The vehicle operator works with a vendor or dealer to select an eligible vehicle or conversion. The vendor and dealer requests a voucher from our program, and then the incentive discount is applied at the time of purchase. Now, Priscilla's going to walk you through exactly how that process works, so I'll hand it over to Priscilla now.
Thanks, Tom. Excuse me. So we will now be going over the voucher application process, the steps to submit a Drive Clean Truck voucher. So I will be helping the approved vendors process their vouchers, and in the next couple of slides, we'll go through that process. I also want to just quickly say that these slides, they have a lot of information, so feel free to use them as a guide later. So now here on this slide, we have the application overview. First item there, so Tom kind of went over this. The vehicle purchaser would select a vehicle from the eligible vehicle list and contact the approved vendor. The approved vendor would then submit the voucher request to the VPC, which is the Voucher Processing Center. That's me. And then after that, me and the vendor would go through the 5 steps of redeeming the voucher. And then at the end of that process, the vehicle purchaser would submit biannual reporting for the next 3 years. Next slide, please. So how to obtain a voucher. So here I just kind of listed the 5 steps just so you have them there in front of you. Next slide. Here we have step 1, preliminary voucher approval. So an approved vendor would submit the voucher request. On that voucher request form, we would just verify that that all the information is complete. And we would also verify that the purchaser or operator's address is within the eligible counties. Once that has been verified, then the funding is reserved for the voucher request. Next slide. Here we have an example of the voucher request form. So it asks for basic contact information, for the purchaser, the operator, if that is a different person, and then the voucher application information. So that would just be like the dealer, since they submit the voucher on behalf of the purchaser. And then down there at the bottom, we just have the vehicle information. Next slide. So step number 2, voucher approval. For voucher approval, the vendor must submit the following documents, which are the signed voucher request form. That was the initial document. A signed vendor terms and conditions, signed purchaser terms and conditions, and then a purchase order, quote, or invoice where the voucher is listed as a deduction. Some other information we will ask for is the VIN and anticipated delivery date of the vehicle. So we would just go ahead and verify all that information, and then the voucher would be approved. Next slide. Here we have the example of the vendor terms and conditions. So basically, the vendor is just agreeing that all the information and documents provided are true and accurate. Next slide. Here we have the example of the purchaser terms and conditions. So I think we went through these. Sam and Tom might have mentioned these already, but some of the key requirements would include that the new vehicle or vehicle converted be owned or leased and operated in one of the 6 eligible counties for at least 75% of the time and for a minimum of 3 years. And then the other key requirement would be that the purchaser would be completing semi-annual usage surveys for the next 3 years. Next slide. Step number 3, the voucher redemption processing step. So here, the vendor would just have to, so here, once a vehicle is ready to be delivered, the vendor will confirm the price of the vehicle or conversion and the date of delivery. At that point, then we can begin voucher redemption. Next slide. Here we have step number 5, the voucher reimbursement. So once, step number 4, the voucher redemption approval. So once a vehicle has been purchased and delivered, the approved vendor must submit a list of items, which is here on the slide. A few of those items are a signed final invoice, financial documentation, DMV registration, and some photos of the vehicle. So once all these items have been submitted and have been approved, then the voucher will be approved for redemption. So that will be step number 4 to get redemption approval. The next slide is for step number 5, voucher reimbursement. Once redemption is approved, then the packet will be submitted and CalSTART will be reimbursing the voucher to the vendor. The vendor will get a check in the mail. Next slide. Here we have the voucher application timeline. So it just kind of takes you through, how many days it can take to, you have to go through the process. Since these vouchers are available on a first-come, first-served basis, we would like to keep to this timeline. The funds will be monitored closely so the industry can be made aware of when funds are exhausted. So just take a look at the timeline. It can definitely go faster than this. It just depends when the vehicle is available, when the conversion is done, and then we can move the vouchers a lot faster than this. But this is just a guide. Next slide. So here I will go ahead and pass it back to Sam. Thank you.
Thanks, Priscilla. I just wanted to call out that there is a very unique opportunity coming next week on Wednesday, October 28th, for folks in the Chicago area. We're going to be hosting an electric vehicle and vehicle ride and drive at O'Hare Airport, actually on the airfield. This event is being held in collaboration with the Airports Going Green Conference, which is a international sustainability conference for airport leaders who are implementing sustainability practices and policies and projects at airports in North America and internationally. The event will be held from 9 to 2 o'clock. Not only do you have an opportunity to test drive many of the vehicles that are available through Drive Clean Truck and meet the vendors, but you also get a chance to tour O'Hare's sustainable projects. So you'll get to see the grazing llamas and donkeys, as well as visit the largest green roof in North America, and in addition to a bunch of other sustainability projects that they have at the airport that not many people get to experience. So this is, once again, an amazing opportunity. It's free to attend. Here's a list of the various exhibitors that will be participating. If you are interested in attending, please go to the Chicago Area Clean Cities website and register on our events page. And please include all information that is requested because we do need all that information in order to have everyone screened through security. And if you are interested in participating in this event, I encourage you to RSVP ASAP. The spaces are limited, and we need to submit that list of folks who want to come to airport security by next Monday. So if you think you want to come, please RSVP. And I will turn it over to Alicia for Q&A.
Great, Sam, that looks like an exciting event, and I hope for many of you that are on the phone that you can participate. That will certainly be a great opportunity to learn about the various technologies that are available through Drive Clean Truck, as well as check out some of the great sustainability programs that are taking place at the airport. So that's great. And thanks so much to Tom and Sam and to Priscilla for your presentation today. Very, very helpful. Folks, just so you know, we will make this presentation webinar available online, as well as provide the slides so that if you do want to use it as a guide, as Priscilla mentioned, you will have the slides available to you. Also, Tom did mention the implementation manual. I just want to bring your attention to the right side of your screen. You'll see handouts. If you click the plus sign, you'll see that there's 2 out of 5 handouts. We've attached the implementation manual and the fact sheet for your convenience. Alrighty, so with that, let's take some questions. If you're interested in either speaking verbally, or if you would like to just type in your question, go ahead and do that. What I'm going to do as the facilitator of the webinar, I'm going to try to keep track of all of this. Let me see if anyone has a question. Go ahead, if you look at attendees, you can see your name. If you plugged in your code to be able to speak, you should be able to unmute yourself. Go ahead and raise your hand if you have a question, and I will unmute you so that you can ask your question. Any questions from the group? All righty, I see a question from John McNichols. John, I'm going to unmute you. Go ahead, John.
Hey, Alicia.
Ask your question.
Hi. Quick question. I know the program covers retrofits. Does it also include conversions?
Yes, it does. Yep. Yeah, you can do a conversion or a retrofit. So in other words, it doesn't have to be a new vehicle on which work is performed. You can actually have a vehicle that's been placed in service and is taken in and retrofitted and put back out. So yes, conversions are allowed.
Excellent. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, John. Any other questions from the group? Let me go to my question box here and see if there's any questions being asked here. Okay, I'm not seeing any other questions coming through. Hopefully that means we had such an informational webinar and we've answered all your questions. Maybe any final thoughts from you, Sam, or Tom, or Priscilla, while folks perhaps think of another question to ask before we close for today?
Looks like there are a couple questions.
Yep, I'm seeing them coming through now. All right, let's see here. Okay, so first question we have, how is the comparable conventional vehicle determined? Tom, can you take that question?
Sure. So in some cases, it's pretty obvious that there is a conventional vehicle that is very close or similar to the particular electric or hybrid vehicle that's getting the incentive. In other cases, you just have to pick something that's close. So we work with the manufacturer in each case to determine the appropriate conventional vehicle. and then we assign 80% of the incremental cost based on that determination. So that isn't necessarily made every single time a vehicle gets purchased. It's done at the time of vehicle eligibility. So for each vehicle that's eligible in the program, we work with the manufacturer to identify that comparable conventional vehicle on which we base the 80% incremental cost.
Great, thank you, Tom. All right, another question I have is, how many times can a company participate with the voucher program? Maybe Sam, do you want to take that question?
Oh, sure. If the question is how many vehicles or how much funding can one fleet receive, the answer is up to 80% of the total voucher funding available. We wanted to give ourselves some flexibility in case a large fleet wanted to heavily participate, but I don't anticipate at this time anyone meeting that threshold. So I think in the implementation manual it specifies the exact dollar amount, but there should not be an issue with reaching a specific cap. If the question is, is there a cap on a specific amount that one manufacturer or one vehicle can specifically receive? No, that there is no cap on a specific technology reaching a dollar limit. There's only a cap on a specific fleet receiving the funding.
Great, thank you, Sam. I see Leonard Lincoln. I'm going to try to unmute you here, but I'm afraid you may have not entered in your audio pin. Leonard, if I can kindly ask you just to go ahead and enter in your question in the question box, that might help for now, because you might have to call back in to enter in your PIN number. So if you want to go ahead and just enter in your question in the question box, we'll make sure it gets answered. All right, our next question is from Tiffany Davis. Does this cover conversion from diesel? And if so, have you calculated what the emissions and noise reductions would be for vehicle converting from diesel?
Okay, so I'll take that. The answer is yes, you can convert from either a gasoline or diesel truck or bus if it happens to be a conversion. And once again, it has to be on the approved eligible vehicle list. Although if you do know of a manufacturer that has a technology that's not on the list, you can work with that manufacturer to get on the list. And the second part of the question is no, we have not calculated either emission or noise reduction benefits. We know that they are there, but we do not go in and actually calculate them for each of the approved technologies.
We do utilize Department of Energy approved emissions reduction calculators. Though, I mean, you won't find a specific emission reduction identifier on our list of eligible vehicles, but on our side, we're asking you for the fleets to turn in biannual mileage and fuel usage information so we can calculate the overall benefits of the program. As I mentioned before, this program is funded with air quality improvement funding. So we've selected these technologies because we strongly believe, and there is a federal agency we can point to that has helped us identify that these technologies do yield a benefit to air quality.
Great. Thank you, Sam. I have a question from Leonard. Let's see. How can an intermediate manufacturer speed up the process of getting the voucher redeemed with over the timeline of 210 days?
So we're pretty good at paying the voucher as soon as all of the required documentation has been submitted. And typically, a purchaser pays for a conversion or a new vehicle at the time of delivery. And we tend to time our payment at approximately that time. It just depends on when all of the, as Priscilla mentioned, there are a number of pieces of required documentation that are required to complete voucher redemption. We pay within a week, so it's a pretty fast process of really from the time that you get all of that documentation in, from the time that last piece is submitted, we can get a checkout usually within a week. So it is not necessarily a lengthy process, and it's up to the vendor to work to get in all of those pieces of required documentation, and then we'll pay pretty quickly thereafter.
Great. I actually have a wonderful participant who's willing to give testimony to the process. Mike, I'll try to unmute you here. Mike, thank you so much. Mike from Orange TV.
Hello, it's Mike Saxton here, and absolutely, on behalf of the Orange EV team, I want to make sure that everybody understands what's being represented here as a simple process and a very well managed process is what is being represented. We submitted the documents, identified a brief time ahead of the actual delivery of our recent truck up to Chicago, and I think it was within, gosh, a week to a week and a half we had the check. So the team does a fantastic job.
Thanks so much, Mike. Appreciate it.
Got it.
Great. All right, I have another question from Eric. What are the restraints or restrictions with grant payments? We have previously both received payments and have approved applications suspended for CNG vehicles, 9 currently pending. What is different about this program? I don't know if you want to, or Sam, go ahead.
Yeah, I think the question is, what's the difference between a grant program and this voucher program? We've managed grants to fleets before for the same vehicle technologies. The grant process requires a fleet, an end-user fleet, to submit an application for a project, for the awarding agency to review that application, and then for that project to be selected for funding, an agreement to be put in place, and then the fleet has to go out, purchase the vehicles, submit documentation to the awarding agency, and then receive reimbursement for their, the actions they took under that agreement. With a voucher program, the funding agency, CDOT, and our partners with CalSTART, we have gone through the vetting process for these technologies. We've identified competitive pricing for the technologies, and we are saying that, through the voucher program, the upfront cost is reduced for the fleet. So that means there's no requirement to apply for the funding. There's no requirement to budget for that incremental funding that you're just going to be receiving, reimbursement for at the end of the, at the end of the program. So this is a much more streamlined, easier process. And like this is not a grant; it's a voucher program. These vehicles have been vetted through it. That the dealerships have been vetted. It's just the fleets. They just need to take action and put in an order for a vehicle, and then that's what triggers the funding portion of our project. So there's no need, once again, to budget for the incremental cost that we're covering. It is taken off of that invoice the fleet from the manufacturer.
Great. Thank you, Sam. I think there was a comment made on, Keith, I'm going to turn in your statement into a question. I think you were asking if you're looking to purchase an eligible technology of a pickup truck and you're a plumber or carpenter, and it's a commercial trade, you certainly would be eligible, and the vehicle would have to be, I guess your question might be regarding eligibility of where the vehicle is being garaged at night. I believe it would have to be garaged in one of the eligible 6 counties.
And really the way garaged, it doesn't literally have to be in a garage. What we will look for is on the vehicle registration, that the address used for the vehicle registration is within the 6-county metropolitan Chicago area. And then we would also have you certify, you would actually sign the terms and conditions that you will operate this vehicle at least 75% of the time within that 6-county metropolitan area.
Great. Thank you, Tom. All right. Any other questions? I'm going to take a look here and see if there's any other hands up. All right. Sam, there's just a comment regarding eligibility for CNG vehicles, and if there's potential for that in the future. I know certainly through the Drive Clean Taxi program, we have incentives available for CNG taxis, but this program for Drive Clean Truck, we have incentives eligible for hybrids and electric vehicles only. Did you want to comment regarding CNG?
Sure. So the state of Illinois has a complementary program that they are administering through the Illinois Environmental Protection Agency. That program is called the Chicago Area Green Fleets Program. The state is also using CMAQ funding for that initiative. Their program is focused on compressed natural gas and propane deployments for the 6-county area. Our program is focused on electric and hybrid. The state's program is a grant program, and they're currently taking applications for projects. I believe they have $1 million available right now. So if you're looking at CNG or propane, I encourage you to go to the Illinois Green Fleets website and fill out that application. The reason why we specifically targeted hybrid and electric is that, as I mentioned before, the city of Chicago has been supporting green fleet initiatives for numerous years, since the 1990s, and natural gas and propane have received a lot of support. And hybrids and electric are an emerging technology, and we wanted to give some additional support for those technologies. As the state also, they have their program, so there's not really a gap in the technology, the funding of alternative fuel vehicles for fleets in the Chicago region.
Great. Thank you, Sam. A question from Tiffany: are any of the eligible vehicles typically used at construction sites? Maybe, Tom, you can speak to some of the eligible technologies that might be applicable to construction operations.
Yeah, so one of the examples I would give is we've got some pickup trucks and vans that could be used. There are plug-in hybrid, both pickup trucks and vans, that not only use less fuel in their operation, but they also have onboard export power. So you could plug in saws or any other electric tools directly into the truck, which would draw from battery power, which can last all day long at the job site. So you can have on-site electric generation on a job site without idling the truck at all for the entire day. And I think that would be a great example of a vehicle that could be used on a construction site.
Great. Thank you, Tom. All right. Any other questions from the group here? We've received some really good ones. I will make sure that the questions have been asked during today's Q&A. We'll develop an FAQ that summarizes the response to your very good questions. So thank you for that. Any other questions before we close for today? All righty. Okay, well, thanks so much. This has been a great session, and it's a pleasure speaking to all of you today, and hopefully you found our webinar informational. Certainly feel free to reach out to us if you have any questions. Our email address is info@drivecleanchicago.com. Certainly our website is www.drivecleanchicago.com, where you can find information about the eligible technologies through the program. We are excited about this program, and we certainly hope that you take advantage of the attractive incentives that are available. We will be putting out communications on a second webinar that we hope to have very soon, presenting you with information on case studies where some fleet end users have actually incorporated some of these great technologies into their fleet operations and where they're seeing some success from that. So stay tuned for information about that webinar. All right, thanks again. And again, don't forget about the upcoming event that Sam had mentioned on October 28th. We'll make sure that we have that information up on our website as well. All right, have a great day and a great rest of your week, and speak to you soon.